At the start of the league, I had the idea that with the changes to Rage and the change to Berserker, we could be able to lead start as a Molten Strike of the Zenith Berserker, owing to the fact that the Berserker changes now mean that he gets 1% attack speed for every point of Rage. Given that the big problems with Molten Strike of the Zenith builds, at least in the popular versions, is that they take a long time to generate enough strength in strength stack conversions, but simultaneously they also need a lot of accuracy to make use of the undeniable passive from the Juggernaut. As a sort of thought experiment and for a bit of fun, I thought, okay, this league we get more melee buffs than ever, we get extra attack speed, could we actually start as a Molten Strike of the Zenith character? So I decided to make this Berserker. I already made a video on this showing my progress after week 1 while I was doing some red maps, and now I'm happy to report that this is more or less the final version of the build. I'm level 95, I've done many tier 17s, probably about 30 or so at this point, although I don't map as much as other people, but I can safely say this is now a tier 17 farmer. I've cleared about 3 Ubers, and to be honest I'm pretty much done with what I want to do with this character for the league. So what's happened since then? Major changes since my initial version is that I've almost fully completed all the gear that I want. I'll just go through it one by one. I've gone for a physical version of the Molten Strike of the Zenith character. The main reason being, the warrior side of the tree has a lot of access to physical skills, and I don't like going elemental skills without making use of ailments, and because this build is a projectile build, my assumption would be that ailments wouldn't be very easy to proc, given that you have large amounts of individual portions of damage. Ailments are better when you have a big chunk of damage, which is why I like them with spells rather than having multiple projectiles, but nevertheless an elemental version is also quite good. I will also add, by the way, that this build, this crit physical Molten Strike of the Zenith variant, is not quite as strong as Connor's strength stacking version, nor is it as good as the Templar version, which uses elemental. However, those are both tending towards the multiple hundreds of divines, close to mirror tier levels of expensiveness. My project here was to make a league starter. So what's happened with the build then? This is a 1200 DPS weapon that I crafted myself. It was quite expensive, to be honest, but you don't need to go something this prestigious. You can just go with a 700 DPS 1 divine weapon from the trade site. You'll do half damage, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter. The amount of damage in this build and this character and this skill is just so inherently ridiculous that even this amount of damage can be halved and it'll still be crazy. It's also gone with the attack return projectiles modification. Now that was very expensive. Helmet here, nothing special. Standard evasion helm with spell suppression, fizz taken as. Pretty much the same story here. We got with the chest. We got one of the new base types. Very good stats. Fizz taken as. We've also got a little bit of the endurance charge mod. So every 10 seconds effectively means that we just constantly have endurance charge generation. You don't have to do this, but I prefer to because it frees up points on the skill tree. Over here we got the Defiance of Destiny, the nerfed controversial item that's a little bit of a nerf and now people think it's useless. It's not useless when you have 7,000 life. You gotta remember guys, we have access to a much larger life pool this season, so even though it only gives, at least in my case, 22% of missing, in practicality when you have 22% of, let's say, I don't know, 5,000 from my 7,000 life, it's a large amount of healing. In my experience, this is the primary defensive layer that I have in keeping my character alive, in addition with the large health pool. Because if you see my resistances here, they're just pretty much baseline, nothing fancy here at all. Gone for standard Shaper and Hunter rings here, just purely for the life gain on hit, nothing fancy. Boots, again, nothing fancy apart from the brittle ground, just standard evasion, spell suppression, a bit of resistance and life. With the gloves here, crucially, we've gone for the non-val skills, strike additional 2 targets, helps a lot with the clear in addition with global accuracy, but once again, nothing too fancy, just the same thing again, suppression, life, resistances. This belt here, its main purpose, to be honest, is just to provide the chance to avoid being shocked, because I am actually running a Storm Shroud with this Ghastly Eye Jewel here, so I've got 100% shock avoidance, which also means I'm fully ailment immune. Upgraded this tincture a little bit, so it's almost a completely maxed out tincture. Again, high penetration, high crit chance. This is a crit version of the build after all.
And looking into the skill tree, is there anything out of the ordinary here? No, bit of elemental damage. We've gone for, funnily enough, we've gone for the 6 life mastery, the 10% more maximum life. I bet if you guys haven't seen that very much. It's the first time I've used it. Still using blood magic. Pretty standard stuff all around. Endurance charges, we have 6, lots of life, a bit of rage. I've gone with a bit of a less damage setup than what you might see with some other characters. This character, at least according to POB, if I open that 1 second, it measures at around 223 million DPS. To be honest, I don't think it's quite that high, and this is with a few things disabled, so it's high. It's high enough. You don't actually need this amount of damage. You really don't. It's almost trivial. I could go with a much higher damage setup if I actually wanted to. I mean, let's look at some examples here. I could take out some points in life, go down to maybe 5,000, and then, look, if I take this two-handed mastery, just this one thing alone is going to give me 58 million DPS. Similarly, I could go up here to the physical section and get another, where is it, 10% more physical? Yeah, another 54 million DPS for 5 points. If you guys want to add that, by all means, you're more than welcome. I just wanted to hit 7,000 life. Because, you know, it's quite fun. It's quite fun being pseudo-immortal, unless you get one shot by a giant physical hit. Okay, as for these skills... Actually, one moment, I'll touch on a few things. On this side of the tree, I've gone for a little bit of projectile damage. Crucially, I've gone for less projectile speed, and also here. I don't know the exact mathematical calculation for this. I don't really think many people do, to be honest. It might be something I look into. But reducing projectile speed to a certain point will increase your single target damage quite significantly, because you have a much larger chance of having asynchronous projectiles actually collide with the enemy. There's an internal cooldown to that with synchronous projectiles, so if you do so with asynchronous projectiles, you increase the chance that you do quite a lot more damage. So this is just a free damage amp as far as I'm concerned. I've got this thing here just to take advantage of tinctures. I've got a Watcher's Eye here. I've gone for the Watcher's Eye, which gives, it's the precision one, which gives a flash charge on critical strike, along with just the Vitality Mastery for life gain on hit. Molten Strike or the Zenith builds just do a lot of hits in general. That's why I've got these 2 rings here. To be honest, you can replace one of these. It's not really too important, to be honest. I would never replace a Defiance of Destiny in case I've got something significantly better coming. But one of these rings you can remove. I don't think I really need the extra one here. There's nothing fancy about either of these. Okay, as for the skill gem setup, Molten Strike of the Zenith is supported by added fire damage, awakened vicious projectiles, mainly because this both reduces projectile speed and gives a massive more physical amplifier, very high damage. Awakened GMP, obviously. Multi-strike, not the awakened version, because I find with the awakened version it repeats 3 times, and for those that don't know, the way Molten Strike of the Zenith interacts with multi-strike is your every 5th attack, which is empowered, now becomes your every 15th attack. It's more like the last set of the 15, the last 3 are empowered, and they're the 5th version of the Molten Strike of the Zenith. So instead of every 5 attacks, it's now every the last 3 of 15 attacks. If you go to Awaken Multi-Strike, that goes up by another value, so it's going to be... Can't do the arithmetic in my head right now, but it's going to be higher. You're going to need to have more attacks. So in my opinion, it's not worth it, because the damage consistency of this skill, while the absolute damage is extraordinarily high, it's very peaky. It's like steady, 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 then a massive jump, and then down again. So sometimes when you're fighting certain types of mobile enemies, you can actually miss the empowered proc, but that's the nature of the game. That's why you get such a ridiculous amount of damage. Oh, and if anyone wants to know how I crafted this weapon, I did post it on Reddit about a month or so ago. If somebody wants a video, just let me know. It's actually pretty simple. Cost about... Depends how lucky you get with the fracture. And this is a 29 quality base, by the way, one thing to remember. But you can maybe craft this for about 30 divines if you're lucky. It might also take 50. And if you were to buy this on a trade site, I don't know. It's pretty much a flicker strike weapon, so it might be 150 divines or more. And one final thing to note is here I have 2 additional Forbidden Flame and Flesh Jewels. So actually on the tree I'm currently using the ones from the Juggernaut that give Undeniable, just for more attack speed through the accuracy stacking. But when I'm running tier 17 maps, there's going to be certain situations where you have things which harm your action speed. For example, the direct mod, where whenever you use a skill in a recent period, your action speed goes down by 3% per skill. Things like petrification statues, that type of thing. If there's anything which is going to reduce your action speed, temporal chains as well, I like to switch over to these. I will lose a bit of attack speed and damage, but it doesn't really matter too much, to be honest. And aside from that, I believe I've gone over everything. We'll note that I didn't really emphasize this much earlier, but I tried to fully cap spell suppression. I know some other variants don't quite do this, but I personally prefer to. It's just comfortable, especially when you're fighting bosses and things like that, if that's the thing you prefer. But again, you don't have to do this. You can go for the strength stacking setup if you want. It's just well, you could also actually merge the two to use a strength stacking Berserker. The reason why I don't is because I would have to give up Defiance of Destiny for an amulet and for the attributes amulet, and some of the rings might be a bit more expensive once you start getting to the high strings and things. But okay, that's pretty much the build in a nutshell. Again, I don't know how much damage it does. It does a gigantic amount. You could do more if you want, but I don't think you need more than this. I don't think the POB... I don't know how accurate this is. It's a bit tricky because to calculate damage, you have to assume the number of projectiles that are hitting. I've got Sniper's Mark, GMP, you know... You can do some calculations, but there's always going to be a bit of leeway here. The general sort of consensus, if you have this type of setup with GMP and Sniper's Mark, that's going to be between 20 and 25 for your final proc, so you can do those calculations if you're a bit more mathematically savvy than I am. But the thing to note is that the damage is more than enough in my opinion, and you can get more if needed. Okay, so I'll do a little quick demonstration in tier 17 strongboxes, because why not? It's a bit of fun. Just to go over these mods here, I don't think these will be an issue, to be honest, but you will notice this map does have the action speed reduction modifier. So live, I'm actually going to swap out my undeniable Forbidden Flame and Flesh here. I'm going to replace it with the unstoppable version. Oh, by the way, guys, total amount I've spent on this character, personally, because I've gone a bit luxurious, I've gone with Grand Spectrums, which I didn't mention here. I've got 3 Grand Spectrums, which are what's giving me the Frenzy and Power charges. I didn't go the Endurance charge one because I've got that from the chest, so instead I went for the one that gives 15% maximum life, wherever that is. Somewhere on the tree. It's somewhere on the tree, probably up here, is it? No, that's Storm Shroud. Anyway, it's somewhere on the tree. Okay. So let's just go. I probably won't die here. It's got an extra 40% monster damage, but it is Abomination, so you never know. Could get shotgunned by the boss. Okay, let's see. Also got Blood Rage. I'm not going to get the wild with that, but... yeah, there's life and there's life difference to the monsters I can notice a little bit. I'll loot afterwards. I'm only doing a demonstration, huh? If I'm doing a demonstration, don't need to bore you guys with all the looting process. I mean, I'm doing a strongbox map. There's going to be a lot of looting. For anyone that hasn't seen tier 17 strongboxes, it's just kind of like this the whole time. Completely ridiculous. You can't see anything, and this is even with an ultra strict loot. Oh no! No! I switched my loot filter over for my new character. 1 second, don't kill me with the explosion. Quickly switch this, guys. I didn't realize this. Oh, my God. Okay, I messed up my loot filter, but who cares? I thought the loot drops were a lot higher than normal, but yeah, I was testing out a new character for, I'm making a Sanctum farmer, which is one of the reasons why I'm kind of done with this character. I just want to mess around in Sanctum until PoE 2 comes out. And as a result, I switched off my loot filter, and now it's just a complete explosion everywhere, and I actually can't see what the hell's going on. Okay, I've just gotten the... What's this doing? Okay. This is just completely ridiculous. I'm just going to rush to the boss, guys, because you get the idea, right? Damage, tankiness, it's hard to really do much. And while I've got these buffs, I might as well fight the boss, eh? I mean, I don't want to get shotgunned by any projectiles, but as you can see, I'm taking effectively 0 damage from this setup, despite the fact that I've only got 75 resistances, so in my opinion, that's pretty good. I may die here, by the way. I'm not, like, completely immortal with these guys or anything. Ah, crap. Huh? Okay. Wow. Okay, yeah, I died to corrupted blood, guys, because I did a stupid setup here where I'm actually running an onslaught flask instead of a life flask. You don't have to do that, of course. That's just me being a bit cheeky. And there we are. That's pretty much the map, eh? Died to a dot because I'm an idiot testing out new things. Okay. Never mind the loot filter, but that's that. Okay, so I would say a league start project successful. Can you start a league as a Molten Strike of the Zenith character? And the answer is, well, yes. I'm not going to say this is like the strongest league starter. It does require a bit to get going. You do have very nice attack speed from the Berserker. But I think the main issue with this build really is this enchant, the attack projectiles returning. In other leagues, we'd have to use a Nimbus for something like this, and you know, Nimbus now is like 200 divines, so is that always going to be the barrier of entry? If you don't use this enchant and you don't use a Nimbus, your damage will go down by about 60-70%, because what you have to remember, is it that much? Maybe it's not that much, so minus 2.5. Oh yeah, it's gonna be about 60%, I think. Yeah, it is 60%, because imagine you have a 6-link, and one of those 6 links you have return projectiles. What that does is on the return, your projectiles on the return do 60% less damage. So if you imagine you do 100,000 damage, it's going to hit for 100,000, on the return it hits for 40. Now imagine if you removed that returning projectiles thing and instead added a skill gem which gives you 50,000 damage immediately. Let's say it's a very good skill gem, like, I don't know, elemental focus. So now your hit will do 150,000 on the way there and 150,000 on the way back, which is 300,000. So it's more than double damage if you go with this. It's almost mandatory if you want to get to the really high-end things to have this enchantment or have a Nimbus, but to be honest, you can start doing it. You could probably still do tier 17 maps without this, I think. In fact, I did this with just returning projectiles, but I did have this 1200 DPS weapon. I think the absolute bare minimum for doing T17s, by the way, this is just for reference here. This is with a fully juiced up Atlas with full map effect modifiers and everything. I would still say, yeah, maybe a 700 DPS axe with return projectiles is probably just about enough, but it's going to be a bit slow. Tier 17 are tough, guys. Everybody knows this. They require quite a lot of investment for people to actually take, but yeah, you can do it with this character, and of course with Molten Strike of the Zenith, you can infinitely scale this as much as you want, until you can even convert to a strength stacker if you want to. The option is always there. This was just a fun little project, and I'm happy to say it worked. Thank you very much. Goodbye.